All right. Is that better? We have to get that out of the way. It seems like every other show. Okay. Elaine says, great. I trust Elaine. I would trust Elaine with my life. Wow. So I jumped in on Saturday and I just thought we'll do a recap. I listened to everything I could to um compare the voice. I think I had my husband say down the hill a few times this weekend because one of the big questions is how did his wife not know? I suspect that she really had no idea. I don't know. I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm probably in the minority on that. If you look at BTK, his wife had no idea. There's several other that they just had no idea. Now, if sources are correct, we know how sources are. She is not at the house. She is not at Delphi. The daughter too, with good reason. I don't know how long it's going to be before they can go back to, well, they'll never have a normal life. This is going to be their life forever. Forever. The difference with this update, they were very careful over the weekend to say this is just an update. That was said at one point. Is whatever was relayed to the families is totally different because Libby's grandma said the monster has a face. If that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what does. The monster has a face. Today is the day. Let's hope today is the day. Now, before we even hear the press conference, which is just a few minutes away, I'm going to tell everyone hi. Hello, Carla. Hello, Nani. But as I'm saying hi, let's do a poll. Do you think he acted alone? Or is this just the beginning? Which honestly, this chapter is just the beginning. Whatever we hear today, this is a new chapter and it's just the beginning of it. This is nowhere near done and over. Hello, Alicia. Christina already said no. Madam Secretary said no. Hello, Brooke. Hello, Mary. And I have to apologize. Well, I mean, I don't really have to apologize, but the members live was supposed to be at 8:30. Since they moved the press conference an hour back, well, obviously had to move that. So I will reschedule the press conference. I'm not rescheduling that. I will move the members live. It'll probably be this afternoon. Hello, Magoo. Hello, PE Island. Lawnut said no. Also want to ask you, okay, D says on their own, there's a lot of people with this lone wolf theory. It gets very detailed. One that I heard over the weekend, I heard many theories. I kind of have my own. It's a little, I don't really want to go into it right this second. But I do wonder, Keegan is never going to be off the radar with this, for me anyway. You can't, I don't mean to bring Richard's daughter into this, but I mean, it's everywhere. The similarities between her and Libby are uncanny and very eerie. What are the odds that Keegan was communicating with this guy's daughter using the Anthony Schatz profile? Do you think that could have anything to do with this? Hello, Paula. Paula was spitting some mad truth on Friday. I can't wait to hear what she thinks about this. I wonder if his daughter knows Kelsey. Today's the day. And today would also be a very good day for these families, Abby and Libby's families, to not be bothered. What they have been put through, besides by whoever murdered the totality of evil, the way Doug described it, whoever is responsible besides that hell on earth, what the online community has accused these people of. Mary said, now that's a good question, Brooks. We knew something was welling up because ISP came and got Keegan, took them into their own custody. I don't know if that went on for a day or two. They had it looked very specific to me, a search on the Wabash River. Then we hear about digging in the fire pit at Richard's house. I've been following this case like all of you or many of you, doesn't matter, even if today's the first time you've heard about it, welcome. Never once have I ever heard this man's name. Never have heard this name. And some of you, have a file that looks like a Tokyo telephone book. Have any of you ever heard the name Richard Allen or the alias? Oh, that's my next question. Hang on. Where did it go? My glasses would help. Do you think after ISP took Keegan's nasty ass, kept him in custody for a little bit, started searching the river, he's got his own trial coming up. Do you think that Keegan finally told the truth about something? He's lied about everything else thus far. Do you think he finally told the truth about something? Okay, my girl Savage said never, and I've been following and obsessed from the beginning. Yes, you have. Never. Nobody's heard this name. I go back to when we did the show on Saturday. It gave me chills the first time I heard the New Direction press conference. Every time it had a totally different meaning for me on Saturday when we went through it. Also, a lot of things that, we have forgotten in the last 5 years. One thing that really, really got me, that particular press conference was almost like the governor was there or something, and the governor was not there. They had people signing in. It was noted, everybody that was there. I believe, I can't remember the lady's name on News Nation, said that never happens. This is not like a political figure or something we're covering, but everybody that came in had to sign in. Then you hear Doug saying, he's hiding in plain sight. You want to know what we know, and someday you will. He's probably in this room. It's insane. It's insane, guys. I'm going to post the link if anybody wants to come up. It's going to start here in a minute. Our good old friend JB Buno is covering this, of course. Let me go ahead and get it set up. So it seems most everybody believes he did not act alone. And it seems like we're pretty much split in the community, which is cool by me because we agree to disagree around here, whether his wife knew or not. That's the tough one for me. Let's see what they're saying. Hang on. If there's an echo, you guys let me know, okay?
Personal safety and concerns. We know that they had children themselves, so you would think they would be invested in this case. But it's, I think it's not fair to say that a wife or a family member would know and would make that nexus necessarily.
As I don't know if I've mentioned this on the live stream, but I believe again, I was doing a lot of homework, a lot of catching up over the weekend on this story so that I could we could do our very best, of course, to talk about this with you and talk about this with our audience. And as I was doing all of this research, I saw the report that Richard Allen worked at the local CVS, that he was in the pharmacy department of the local CVS, which might be even adding another layer of a chilling element to this story, because you're talking about pharmacists, your local pharmacists, the folks that work in your local pharmacy, they are like members of your community. You see them all the time. You're making routine trips to your pharmacy. They're usually, saying hello to you and being friendly, especially in a small town like Delphi. So that's another part of this story that is even more chilling. That this is somebody that was in a relatively well-known area of the town. As I understand it, the CVS there, the pharmacy there, is a lot of people would go into that CVS and go to that pharmacy.
Yeah, true. Again, that's where you make that extrapolation where everybody should have known it was this individual. Actually, there's a huge likeness of the bridge man to Ron Logan, who the FBI originally had felt was a person of interest. They wrote a very long and explicit affidavit to have Ron Logan's property searched. And quite frankly, there's a huge look-alike scenario with the sketch as well as the video of the bridge man to Ron Logan. So I think a lot of people who lived there, felt he could be a possible suspect. Then, of course, things shifted to Keegan Klein. And I know we're getting ready for the...
Okay, this will serve as your 2-minute warning. 2 minutes. Again, one last time, please silence your cell phones. And again, at the conclusion, Sergeants Tony Slocum and Sergeant Glenn Fifield will be passing out the press release that we're going to be issuing. So they'll be looking for you. Please look for them as well. So 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
This is a press conference. I don't even think that we can begin to describe how anticipated this press conference is. And we have multiple cameras in the room, including this one that is showing some of the reversal shots right now, just how many people have gathered into this auditorium, this press room or this media room where this is actually taking place. So we have multiple cameras in this room to take you to this press conference. Jennifer, your final thoughts before we finally get answers in this case, answers that Delphi has waited 5+ years for.
Well, I think it's going to be imperative that law enforcement has very direct evidence pertaining to this suspect and the murders of Libby and Abby, because there is so much that has pointed toward other subjects in this case. So for them to have a case that they can prove in a court of law, it's going to be imperative they have physical evidence to connect him.
All right, well, we've got a couple of different feeds here, folks. We've got a couple of different feeds to show you. Jennifer, we'll check back in with you after the press conference is finished, and I'll be able to, give you audio on your end so you'll be able to hear it on the other end of the Zoom call. There is a massive amount of press inside this room, and that's why you're seeing the signal cut out a little bit. I have multiple feeds up here from the Stream Center, and both of them are beginning to show signs of cutting out because there might not be enough bandwidth in such a relatively small town in Indiana for this press conference to actually feed out from all of these different press agencies. It speaks to how high profile this case has become over 5 years. True crime podcasts, live streamers here on YouTube and other social media platforms who have, of course, been following this extraordinarily closely. And this is it live. Let's listen in.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Jeremy Piers, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post. I'd like to thank you all for being here and thank the Delphi United Methodist Church for allowing us to use their facility. This morning, we're going to provide an update on the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce you our speakers, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, the Carroll County Sheriff, Tobe Lesenby, and the Carroll County Prosecutor, Nick McClelland. I'd like to remind everyone that this continues to be an active and ongoing investigation. At the conclusion of this press conference, we are going to answer a limited amount of questions out of respect to the investigation and the process that will follow today. We will not discuss evidence as related to this investigation. On behalf of the Delphi Double Homicide Task Force, thank you all for your continued support. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter.
Give me just a second here. Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day. And an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and you know I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi Chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analysts, our scientists from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail, and to so many others that I know I've missed. I really believe that Abby and Libby would be proud of you for standing strong, even in the face of immense pressure and perpetual criticism. Some of these individuals have postponed retirement, passed on promotional opportunity, have dedicated personal time away from their families, given up nights, weekends, and holidays, all while in the pursuit of accountability for Abby and Libby. I know that today's announcement will not diminish your resolve, and I hope you have found just a bit of peace in this most complicated world. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. Prosecutor Nick McClellan, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that in our plan. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks that have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend, the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Libby, for his remarks.
I believe in a God of justice and righteousness. Today, I believe that same God has provided us with justice for Abby and Libby. As Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, I want to publicly and sincerely thank each individual who played a role in helping us during this 5.5-year investigation. Whether it was in an investigative capacity, providing tips, cards or letters of suggestions or encouragement, phone calls, and thousands of other countless ways of communicating. I earnestly thank those who prayed for this moment in time. We now move forward through the Indiana criminal justice system, allowing the system to provide its due diligence and process in providing that justice which is owed Abby and Libby, their families, and this community. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm the Carroll County Prosecutor. And before we get started, I want to reiterate some of the things that Sheriff Lesenby and Superintendent Carter stated. I first want to thank both of them. They've been a great support to my office throughout this investigation. They've always been there for a phone call and always been willing to help a hand or a line of assistance to me and my office during this investigation. I want to thank the team behind me. This is the Homicide Task Force team that we've put together. Thank them and thank their families for being so understanding for the many nights they've worked away from their families, away from their children. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that was submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. For that reason, and for the nature of this case, the probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court. I've been very clear to everybody that per the court order, we cannot talk about the evidence that's in the probable cause or the evidence that's in the charging information. That will become evident to you at some point and it'll be released, but right now is not that day. Today's about Abby and Libby, focusing on them. Mr. Allen has had his initial hearing. He's entered a preliminary plea of not guilty. The matter's been set for a pre-trial on January 13th at 9 a.m., 2023, and a trial date of March 20th, 2023 at 9 a.m. He is presumed innocent. We will have I want to open up to a few limited questions from the audience. But again, keep in mind, we are not going to talk about the evidence that we have in this case or about the charging information. We cannot. Those things have been sealed by the court. And so I want to open up a few questions. Again, that's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the, again, that gets into the evidence we have in the investigation. And I know from everybody, it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
Again, I appreciate the question, but we're getting into the timeline of events, and today's not the time to do that. It was a very personal moment for me, and I think it was a very personal moment for them, for all of us that have had interaction with the family. We developed a relationship that I think is going to last at least one lifetime, and maybe a second. So it was a very, very, very sad yet a very humbling experience. This all comes together. This nexus, the combination of all three things that led us to this day. Was it one or the other? Eventually, you'll be able to see what led us to this day. But again, today's not that day. To include the reward, you mentioned that, Raphael, about the reward itself. And again, very premature for us to talk about that. There's still a tremendous amount of work to do. I think probably resilience and understanding the value of each and every day. That today was the day, but I didn't anticipate they ever thought today would be their day. And I feel like I've known for a long time. Excuse me? Did you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case? We haven't closed the door on the investigation. And so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has. And as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us. We should be able to see all the documents, right? Sure. Sure. It is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent. And so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now. It's part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's
some signal difficulty from Delphi, Indiana folks. Post press conference coverage coming your way on WFLA Now as we try to maintain a signal from Indiana.
concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just different emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so
breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
Murder charges filed in the deaths of Libby German and Abby Williams. But how police went from 5 years of searching to finally making an arrest on Friday, still shrouded in mystery. And as investigators release few details on the apprehending of 50-year-old Richard Allen. Hey there, folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now. I always keep it straight with our audience here on WFLA Now. I had a list of 14 questions that I wanted answered in this press conference, and 0 for 14 as far as the details that we got here. Actually, no. I mean, 1 out of 14, because one of the questions I had here was the charges that are being filed, and we do have murder charges being filed here against 50-year-old Richard Allen, again, apprehended and arrested on Friday, as you just heard from members of the media asking in that Q&A session, a very brief Q&A session, just down the street, really, from police in the community, where, of course, Libby and Abby called home for the 13 and 14 years of their respective lives. I know that there's a lot of frustration in the comment section, and you heard before, during, and after Richard Allen's name being mentioned here in this press conference that there was going to be just heavy amounts of apologies being put forth by law enforcement officials saying that we can't release this. This has been sealed. This is still open of an investigation. Today is not a day to celebrate. Today is not that day, according to Doug Carter, the superintendent there with ISP, and saying today is not that day, and that today's not that day for answers, which is, I would imagine, very frustrating, extremely disappointing for folks in Delphi who were there in that auditorium. They were there for the press conference to get some answers, something that they could walk out of there and say, okay, this is what our hardworking men and women of law enforcement have been doing to find the person responsible for killing a 13 and 14-year-old who went on just, a walk like any two teenagers would, any two best friends would. And I would be very curious to know right now as to those community members who have been part of the search, who were part of the search efforts, who have done the interviews, who have been talking about this for 5+ years, what they would have to say. We now have another live feed coming up here. This is, I believe, from outside of that auditorium. We'll pay attention to the live feeds, and I'm going to bring in Jennifer Coffendoffer again here momentarily as we again break this down. But I'm going to ask our audience really quickly on YouTube Live for their. You can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJennifer as we bring Jennifer back in. And Jennifer, I'm very curious to hear what you have to say in relation to this press conference, a press conference where, of course, we have very little information, not really very much information announced at all. But I want to hear from our audience here. You can use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyJennifer. What did you guys think of the press conference where they did, of course, announce the arrest of Richard Allen? But that was about it, Jennifer. There wasn't too much else, even though on Friday, the arrests were reported. Saturday, Sunday, really the entirety of Halloween weekend, people in Indiana, people across the country are talking about finally there being an arrest in this case. And looking forward to this big Monday press conference that, police officials had, saying, hey, join us on Monday, we will be able to finally talk about how we got to this point, or at least, or so that's maybe how we read into it. But we get to Monday, we get to 10 a.m., the press conference starts, around on time, and we didn't get all that much in this press conference, Jennifer.
Well, JB, we didn't get squat. We didn't get anything other than the charges levied. So in terms of the investigation and how they got to this probable cause conclusion leading to his arrest, we got zero. And, they want to maintain the integrity of this prosecution. I understand that they don't want this tried in the media. With the huge social media following and mainstream media following of this case, they're concerned about this. But keep in mind, the prosecution filed these motions to seal, and a judge, at least for the time being, has agreed that it's important that this affidavit and that all the documents and evidence in support of the affidavit concerning his prosecution be sealed. And until that judge makes a different decision, we're not going to see anything.
We have this comment coming in from Liv, and we're going to get to a lot of we're getting a ton of hashtag HJB and Jennifer comments and questions coming in. But let's just start with this one because Liv is right here. Hashtag HJB. I think we should respect it. They are doing it for a reason. And of course, that reason being to not compromise the legal process and it could be a lengthy legal process now. Also, too, we don't know the strength of the evidence. So let me ask you this question now, Jennifer. Considering the fact that this is we got basically a nothing burger on this as far as information to go by on this arrest. Does that give us any inkling whatsoever as to the strength of the evidence that they have, the strength of their case? I mean, you had Doug Carter opening up there with at what times felt a lot almost like it almost felt as much like a sermon than it did, a police press conference. It was a very interesting way. It was 10 minutes of opening up and really not talking all that much about the case, but talking about the community and the people who have tirelessly put in the work. He even went as far to thank the media, members of the media who have, worked tirelessly, covering this story. So as far as us getting to this point and not having any information put out, of course, we should respect it. The process is ongoing, but there's a lot of people scratching their heads right now as to why a press conference was called to begin with.
I think you make a great point. Look, if I were the prosecutor or we're on the side or we're part of this law enforcement team, and we had great physical evidence or DNA evidence supporting this arrest, I would think that nugget would be dropped. We don't necessarily know there was DNA. Remember, they kept that concealed from the public. But JB, announcing one nugget in terms of what they have, generally speaking, I don't understand how that would compromise an investigation.
There was obviously a strategy, Jennifer, that went into this beforehand. They had the entirety of the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to discuss what they would be able to discuss at the press conference. And I would imagine it had to have been a relatively short conversation because they're laying everything out there and then saying, nope, this is off table, can't talk about this, can't talk about this, can't talk about this. So we get to the press conference and they're apologizing before they even make the announcement of the arrest. I just think that I've covered countless police press conferences in my time. Jennifer has watched a gajillion of them. I don't know if I've ever seen as high profile of a press conference with so much time beforehand. Sometimes press conferences will happen at the scene of a crime where, you'll see the crime scene tape get put up and then police will come out and, they're just walking away from maybe a particular, horrific crime scene. And they will look into the cameras and say, look, we can't say very much at this time. There's so much that we have to sort through here. Please, pardon us as we try to comb through this, and we will keep you updated as soon as humanly possible. That's something that's a little bit more common because they're just getting out of the crime. This is something that's been going on for 5+ years. They had the entirety of the weekend to prepare. The really, in large part, the Delphi community coming into this auditorium to learn what has led to this arrest. And the only thing that we get is Richard Allen's name, 50 years old, and facing 2 murder charges. Also, I should point out, though, at the end there, they did mention that he has pleaded not guilty and that there's a pre-trial hearing set up for January 13th. That's something to go off of as well. But how they got to this point with so many questions, endless amounts of questions, I'm sure that reporters in that room wanted to ask. It's pretty much 99.9% of it was off the table. We're going to get to more questions and comments here in just a second. But really, lastly, Jennifer, your last thoughts on just the fact that we got to this point. How bizarre is it that we didn't get anything in this press conference to go by on as far as how the arrest was made?
Certainly unusual. I understand, again, the police and prosecutors wanting to protect the integrity of this case, but to generally offer what led to this arrest, i.e. physical evidence, DNA evidence, that could have been disclosed without compromising the case at all. And I will also say, although they announced that there was going to be a probable cause hearing, I would believe that they are going to try to get this case indicted, because a probable cause hearing means they have to disclose all of this before that hearing, which would likely be public. And seeing how they are sealing documents and they're keeping all this evidence close to the vest, they're probably going to push for an indictment so they don't have to have a probable cause hearing.
One day, people will look at this live stream and wonder, my goodness, why was there so much angst as to why there was no information released at this? I'm reading the comments, and believe me, I'm expressing surprise here, but there's anger and frustration in our comment section. There's also people who are saying, look, that's the process. They don't want to compromise anything. The last thing that we want is this guy, if he is responsible for the murders, getting out and it being on a technicality. So there is that group in our comment section right now. We're going to start to animate some more questions and comments, but there are a lot of people who were leaving this extremely disappointed and saying, my goodness, you couldn't give us anything, not even one little nugget of information. Let's get to some of the comments and questions that are coming in. Marcy Mez, #HateJB. Now I wonder if the trial will be public/live.
All right, sorry guys, I'm going to switch it to a local station. I want to see what they're saying locally. Him having to explain to Jennifer Coffindaffer what's going on is ridiculous.
The charging documents are going to be sealed for at least 30 days. So we're not getting any of those answers anytime soon. And you heard reporters shouting out those questions. How did you connect Mr. Allen to this? What was the break in the case? Is he connected to other folks? Do you think there's other folks involved? And you saw again and again and again, look, we are not going to discuss that. We do not want to do anything to jeopardize the integrity of that case. And I was just listening to Superintendent Carter there, that soundbite that you just played, and yeah, he was visibly emotional throughout this entire press conference, and he said outright, look, if you want to criticize anybody for how we've conducted this investigation or how tight-lipped we're being, criticize me. Don't criticize the people behind me, the people on the front lines of this investigation. Doug Carter has said over and over and over again that this investigation was personal for him, that he believed that that one day would be the day that they would solve this case. Many times at many press conferences, as they were giving sketches and pictures and audio over the years, he would directly look into the camera and address the killer out there and say, we know you are out there. We know you want to know what we know. And one day you're going to know what we know. So I have to imagine for him to come to this moment, as he said, it's not a day to celebrate. This is about Abby and Libby and their families. But I have to imagine, as he said, he drove up here today and a sense of peace came over him. He wasn't expecting that feeling, but he said a sense of peace came over him. So you know, that was the emotion that he expressed here today to us.
And boy, you could just see it, Emily. I've known Doug Carter for about 25 years, and to see how he is handling this, you can tell it's something that has hit him very deep and very personal. You know, I think maybe we should talk a little bit about why perhaps this has gained such national attention. Certainly so many unique aspects to this case. The girls disappeared on a Monday when they didn't have school. As you mentioned, her sister dropped them off on a beautiful February day, which would be unusual in Indiana anyway. And then when they still weren't accounted for by that afternoon or the next day, then it became concerning. But then when we learned that they had been found murdered, certainly shock and disbelief by everyone. But the fact that one of the girls, we can presume, had the forethought to record a little bit of that audio and perhaps have those pictures that were captured that would ultimately give police a little bit of information. I feel like that's probably one of the reasons this has garnered so much attention nationally. Don't you think so?
Absolutely. I mean, I was reading through some of my old notes last night from these past 5 years, and in an interview with Doug Carter, he said, I can't recall any other time when we've literally had video of the person we believe is responsible, audio, the voice of the person we believe is responsible. Mike Patty talking about that in the years that Libby had the foresight to record that. He always thought, he told me that he thought that she recorded it maybe to show him later, like, hey, Grandpa, look at this weird guy that was kind of walking towards us on the bridge. And he called his granddaughter a hero for doing that. He always talked about how smart Libby was. He talked about several times how much these girls loved each other. They were dear friends. And he you know, would always say, you know, I don't know exactly what happened that afternoon, but I have to imagine at one point or the other, one of the girls had an opportunity to run, to try and get away, and they didn't. They stayed with each other. So that is something that he has always talked about. But yeah, this case, I mean, in those early days, again, even those early vigils, I remember people from Canada and other countries being here, and you only have to take a look online to see all of the people from all over the world that have written in or had something to say on social media. Some of them have called reporters, have called me. Yeah, definitely a case that grabbed worldwide attention, certainly.
And Emily, I know that we're going to let you go as you continue to wrap up some of these loose ends for us for later on 13 News for us a little bit later today. But as we transition, we do want to get a little bit from the prosecutor, because I know that we heard from a couple of officials, but the prosecutor, Nicholas McLaughlin, kind of giving some insight as to all those questions that we're looking to get answered, why it's difficult to answer those right now. So let's take a listen.
There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen.
And we now have a very first look at the mugshot taken presumably on Friday when Richard M. Allen was arrested. He is now charged with 2 counts of murder and he is being held without bail. Of course, as we mentioned, we are getting very limited information from police as they continue this investigation. We know the court documents are sealed. However, a judge looked at the evidence in this case and ruled there was enough evidence to make that arrest, and that happened on Friday.
I know over the weekend, as this news broke, a lot of people, you may have likely seen photographs of Richard Allen, but as we mentioned, this is our first look that we're actually seeing of a mugshot, because we have to wait until he's actually been arrested or hearing police that official confirmation that he has been arrested and linked to this case as well. I know that that was a lot question that we had this morning. We're asking that we've seen photographs that are circulating and how we were able to make that connection there. But again, if you're just joining us this afternoon, letting you know that this mugshot that you're seeing is Richard Allen, now facing 2 counts of murder in connection to Abby and Libby German.
Obviously, we know it's frustrating. There are still so many answers. We've not been given any indication of his direct connection. As we mentioned, these papers will be sealed at least for the next 30 days. Not just, frustrating for the public, of course, and the media who have really wanted this case solved. We've talked about this is day 2086 in this investigation for state police and Carroll County Police and the FBI. We also heard that officers working this case have wanted to stay on the case, taking days away from their family just so they could make this day a reality.
And as you mentioned, as frustrating as it is for us to have these questions and want these answers, you can imagine how frustrating it is that these are details the family does not even know after all of this time. So again, when those details are able to be released, but maybe likely not until the trial, because again, those details are sealed. We are working to maybe possibly hear from family a little later today. They said that they would be willing to speak, but they have been clear that they would not be speaking until these new details came out later today, obviously in the room. And we have reporters that have been working to see if they are willing to speak and willing to share how they feel about this arrest that's now been solidified today.
Interesting, so interesting to hear Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, say that this isn't a day to celebrate, because it certainly doesn't feel that way. Even though this is something that nearly 6 years later, family members, the community there have been waiting for someone to be arrested. And a post by one of the relatives put it very poignantly, saying that this is the monster that we finally can put a face to. So we will continue to cover this story, of course, from Delphi, Indiana. Be joining us today at noon for the very latest. We do hope we'll have heard from some family members by then and how they're feeling.
We'll see you then.
All right. Wow, that's a lot to take in. I understand that Jennifer Coffindaffer did not get her money's worth. Piss on you. All right, so all of this time, you have to admit, a lot of us thought this day would never come. There has been so many people that have been put out there as possible. Keegan's not getting out of this. He's somewhere in this. Really didn't think it was going to be solved, even with an audio, even with a picture, even knowing how he walks. The devil is in Delphi. The devil is there. There is still some sort of CP ring going on in that area. It's going to take them a long time. I'm sorry that the former FBI person is upset that she didn't get her money's worth, and JB Buno had to keep explaining shit to her. That's the reason I turned it off. There's something more going on, because they said the tip line is still open. It's going to be sealed. We've known for years by what they have said. They're not trying to get a Netflix deal, dudes. That's done. They've known for a long time. When Doug said in 2019, he said, the way you left them in the woods is not the way they are now. This is power for you. This is power for you. When Doug came out and said, I have a peace over me, I actually felt that. I actually felt that. Nostit said, and I have the link up. I got Faye backstage. I'm bringing Faye up in a second. Nostit said, but it's such a small town. It's possible they knew Richard or his family. Hands down, they did. Hands down, they did. He handed out flyers at the CVS. They know him. Doug said, you're hiding in plain sight. You want to know what we know, or you're going to know. It's never been any secret when they have talked about this scene, this crime, when he said it's the totality of evil, when he said what happened down that hill is something the human mind can't understand. He said it's something that the human mind, you can't wrap your mind around. And I have a feeling he has seen some nasty stuff in his career. So we've always known that. I think it's better that they had it staged in a church with the family sitting there and they can announce what we pretty much had guessed and double down on, we're not going to tell you what you want to know. Not yet. Not yet. Yes, Shani, that's what he said. The human mind can't understand is what he said. And some people, I saw, not you guys, but I saw another chat running because I got all this stuff going on to make sure we had it. And I saw people saying, well, then why they even have a press conference? No way in hell with finally arrest and murder would they not have formally announced this. Now then, as far as Jennifer Coffindaffer running her pie hole on WFLA, I'm embarrassed for JB Buno for letting that go on. But anyway, I'm going to let it go because this is about Abby and Libby and they're going to get their justice. I know it. Could you imagine if they spilled all the beans today? If they opened it up like the shark on Jaws and it's spilling out all over the deck, you got license, you got the whole thing. And they gave the defense a head start. Could you imagine? There's an attorney. I don't think he's an attorney. I'm sorry. He's former law enforcement, not like the ones that just take guesses at everything. And because they're former law enforcement, everyone's like, oh, they've got a good point. We all have a good point. We all have a good point. Listen to this guy. He has been following Delphi for a very long time. You may not like him, but just he makes a lot of good points. Listen.
To the murder sheet, who may be in this room. Think about the word deplorable. Someone you regard with contempt, disdain, disgusting. Those are words that come to mind, definitions that come to mind. You've broken someone's trust for your own gain. You know, there's plenty of others who know way more than you do, but they're silent. That's called character. I want to thank Kristen from Behind the Crime Door, Steve from True Crime Web, two people I caught last night who condemned what you've done, and many others probably that I didn't catch. You should be ashamed. You've jeopardized this case. You've messed up the timeline for law enforcement. You've put people in danger. You've put KK in danger. You put law enforcement in danger. You've probably tainted a potential jury. Character. Yours has been damaged. And it's deserved. I hope you got all the views you wanted. You know, there's a way that you can tell when it's really cold outside. You don't need a weatherman. But you can tell it's really cold outside when you see an attorney walking down the street with their hands in their own pockets.
I love this dude. And it's not drama, it's not a creator war or anything like that. He's saying what you all were leaking and what you were about to leak is disgusting. Now, again, I go back to what I said. Could you imagine if they got up there and they just spilled it all? I'm going to give you all the dirt. I'm going to tell you how terribly these girls were treated in the woods. I'm going to paint a picture for you that Stephen King couldn't write because it is so horrific. So then you're going to be sad. You're going to go about your day. But guess what? In 6 months, my case is screwed. My case is screwed. Let's see what Faye has to say. Hello, Faye. Faye, you're muted.
I am. Good
Hello,
morning.
Faye. And I got Pat up here too.
Oh, hey there, everybody.
So now, did everybody, I understand that there's a few retired, I don't think she's retired, FBI agents that are upset that they didn't, they didn't get all the, stuff that they were, I guess, really excited to hear about. Is everybody else okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I expected this. I wasn't sure if he was the murderer or not, like in the arrest part, but I'm convinced today, and I'm so glad they do remain tight-lipped. That's my opinion.
Well,
I agree as well.
When Doug came out and he was already breaking down and he's looking right at Mike and Becky, because that's who I could see. So I don't know who else he was looking at. That's who I could see his line of sight. And he was already crying and said he's in jail for murder.
Yes. Yes.
You know what? I just had to come up, Brooks, because I am so flippin' angry. I am just so angry. Oh, these people that run the streets, these effing pedos. Like, I think this must be a ring. It's got to be. And I hope they catch every single one of them and throw the book at them, or their jailhouse friends get them.
Yep.
And I know I shouldn't be wishing for things like that, but you know what? I really do, right? I'm so flippin' mad. And, I don't care if they don't tell us any details. I don't want to know. God knows. That's all that matters. Poor Libby, and I'm just so flippin' mad. From the minute they put out Libby's video, I have a niece that's sort of like that. She would have immediately turned on a camera and said, "Oh, look at the creepy guy behind us." And I'm sure that's what Libby did. Mm-hmm. And it just got away from them. I'm sure he had a weapon. I'm just so mad. I'm sorry.
I think he had a weapon. I think he might have actually been surprised that Abigail was there. I think Keegan, being the last one that spoke to Libby, set this up for him. I think Keegan has been groomed by some of the other men that we have heard about in this. There's a lot of nastiness going on. And the thing is, if they start, I hate to tell Jennifer Coffindaffer, but if they start telling what they know, the roaches will scatter. They'll go hide.
Yeah. Yeah, they keep it all quiet. And, somebody brought up the other day, and I just wanted to, it's just a little thing. About 30 years ago, my son's in his 40s now, but about 30 years ago, he was into all these techno stuff, and I bought him a listening device from the toy store. And this thing could go about 50 feet, and you could hear someone's conversation.
Oh,
So
God.
all you pedos out there, this was 30 years ago. There is things that the FBI and the police have, and they can just put it right towards whatever they want to listen to, and they can hear every word they're saying inside a house, wherever. So just for all you sickos out there, I'm so mad.
Well, when you came out and said you were mad, I thought you were going to tell me that your Crime Lines and Lies hoodie didn't fit. And I was like, this is not the time, Pat.
No, I haven't got it yet. I'm waiting. Thank you, by the way.
No, I'm just lightening the mood, but I'm pissed too. And I'm also mad that, you know, from where we sit, it all looks, I shouldn't say me because I'm not like this, but some people, and I don't mean you guys, because I think we are all super cool here and we have common sense and we can look at things with discernment. Some people want microwave justice. They want 1981 to reappear. And I don't mean jelly bracelets, okay, which those would be cool. But they want the microwave justice. They want detectives that will arrest on what they think and not what they can prove. Well, the Innocence Project is busy. They are so busy because they are having to get people out of jail because of microwave justice. Now, with DNA, CCTV, the internet, social media, they have to be extra careful.
Yeah.
And this right here, I believe that they have worked and worked and worked and worked this case. I really do.
Yeah, well, they've got 5 years into it, and it's very possible they knew it was him even a year or so ago. But I'll stand behind the LE all I can. And that poor sheriff, you know, I commend him and all his team for everything they've done. And I hope they've got a long list of names that they're just waiting for all the tips to come in. I'm sure there's going to be tons of tips now that this guy is named publicly.
He could be the ringleader. They could have been watching all these people all this time. He's the one name we haven't heard. We'll probably hear other names.
Yeah, I think so. Get all the sickos off the street, all of them.
And when you think about it, what a perfect breeding ground for such sickos. This is a small, tight-knit community where they trust leaving doors unlocked, letting their kids go play by themselves. You know what I mean? Now that trust is gone now.
Yeah. I'd move. I wouldn't stay there. I know people go, oh, you can't give up your home or something. It'd be like, no, I wouldn't want to live. How could you go by that bridge? I feel sick even every time I see one of the pictures of it.
Let me ask you, because I know you're going to tell me the truth. You always do. How weird, that's the only word I can think of right now. Actually, I have a lot of words, but I'm going to pick weird. Abby and Libby were murdered February of 2017. Richard Allen has a picture of his daughter taken on that bridge. It looks like it's a senior picture, engagement photo, something like that. July of 2018. Now, for one, that girl, and I'm not putting anything on her, she knows the significance of that bridge. So how did he get her to take that picture? Why did his wife post it? They know what that bridge symbolizes. Even if they had taken it before 2017, which they didn't, people were removing pictures of their children from that park in general. What do you think about that, Pat?
That just shows how sick he is. And now, like, even when it happened, I don't know, maybe he's that type of control father where the daughter shuts her mouth because she knows better. You know, we know there are kids like that, even teenagers like that. They're not going to say a flippin' word. They just want to get out of the house as soon as they're old enough to, because they know things aren't right.
Yep.
And how could you not know something wasn't right if your father said, here, sit down, let me take a picture. What, on the murder fucking bridge?
Yep.
Like, that's not right. And then the wife posted it?
She did. She did in 2018. So she had plenty of time to catch up on the local news. If I knew in 2017, they damn sure knew. They live 3 miles from the school.
Yeah.
It's twisted.
Yeah.
It's twisted.
It is. It's twisted. That's a perfect word for it. It's twisted. And that poor daughter better be in therapy right now, and she's going to need it for the rest of her life. Who knows about the wife? You know, some wives, like, you know, are saying in Canada, is willful blindness, and they just want to trust everybody or whatever. But wow, I feel sorry for everybody that was friends with this guy that are innocent. Because, boy, they're going to be smacking their heads today saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Imagine the people that were working with him just last week. And, you know, I totally understand the don't let your kids out of your sight. Here's the problem with today's world and why people get mad at me. They don't like this. They don't like me saying this, and it has to be said. When I was growing up, because I'm much older, it was stranger danger. Don't talk to strangers. We had, the milk cartons. My parents would say, see, that's what happens. You're going to wind up on one of those milk cartons if you talk to a stranger type of thing. That's how our parents talked to us back then.
Yep.
The stranger is on the phone now. So when a kid thinks they're talking to someone who is their age, they don't know and you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. No, people have to, it's a whole new world. I'm glad I don't have kids right now because I wouldn't know how to deal with it. Again, we were brought up in a different age, a different era. And I wouldn't know. I have a little grandniece and she's 2 and oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, a friend of mine, she's raising her grandkids and one of her grandkids has a phone, smartphone, which, hey, whatever, that's her deal, And I said, you might as well give him car keys. It's safer than letting him have that phone.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's ridiculous. It's I don't know.
You don't know who they're communicating with. And I'm not shaming any parents because I've heard you guys and the safety measures and what you talk about with the internet and your kids. I'm not talking about you guys because you guys are badass. I hear about some of these other parents. They don't think anything about their kids sending pictures of themselves, downloading these different apps. It scares the hell out of me. The boogeyman is in that phone.
Oh, definitely. And the kids, a 12-year-old, they don't know life yet. They don't understand that that person on the other end of the phone isn't who, remember that Andrew, whatever his name was, that cute guy that they thought they were talking to.
Anthony Shots.
Anthony Shots, yeah. And I could see a 12 or 13, 14-year-old looking at that and they get pumped up and they're, oh my God, look, he's talking to me. But this is happening everywhere. I don't know how to warn the children about this. It's like we have to take their innocence away very young now. It's very sad, but that is the world that we're living in right now.
And the Anthony Shots profile, the real guy, his name's not Anthony Shots. He's a police officer in Alaska. He had a very, very hard time thinking that his pictures of him when he was younger were used in a murder. Think about that.
Yeah. It's, mind you, the way the internet is going and the way all securities are going, and I think, my son works for Google. They're very smart. They can, all the people that were around that bridge, okay, they have ways of finding out every single phone that pinged by that bridge. It may be 1 million, but they systematically, maybe that's why it took years, but they can find out every single phone that even drove by that bridge that day. And again, it could be millions, but if they have enough people working on it at the FBI or wherever, they systematically take it down until they start finding 100 suspects maybe. And so that's why I say maybe they've been onto this guy for a long time, but they've got to get all the evidence together. So, you know, it's going to get better with all the sickos out there. The security will get better.
Mhm.
And they, you know, we have to have that as a hope anyway.
We have it as a hope, and technology, as of right now, moves faster than we can keep up with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And not saying that my son said anything about what I'm talking about. I just know that technology is way out there and we have no idea what they're capable of. But I know a few things. Not from him, but just, you know, from staying on top of the technology part of it.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is technology, they have to continue because they have a product to put out.
yep. Yep.
Everybody wants the new phone, the new faster phone, the app that does this instead of the old outdated app. You know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
work on this all the time, but we can't keep up. So
Yeah.
if, you know, your child, 13, 14 years old, is like, oh, this new app came out. Well, hell, you don't know. It's just a new app. You don't know
Yeah.
what's behind that damn app.
Yeah. Yeah. At the beginning of the internet, I remember the first ones we logged into were like all of a sudden you'd start getting pedo stuff coming. And it's like, oh my God, how did that happen? It's because it was wide open.
Wide open. First time I looked up sausage recipes, I about fell out of my chair. I didn't know God made them that big, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. That's what happened with us back in the 80s. And it was like, oh my God. But, you know, new protocols came out. And so we just have to hope that they stay one step ahead of these guys. But they're just going to me, they're going to start catching a lot more. And good. Because everybody's tied to their phone. So it's going to be their downfall.
Mm-hmm. I just think, you know, these kids, like I said, they don't know who they're talking to. They trust who they're talking to.
Yeah.
And things are different in real life. It's one thing, I mean, you get an email from your boss kind of telling you, let's straighten this up a little bit. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Whew, I got through that. But now the boss says, come to my office and you're face to face. It's a different feeling. So they can't get that vibe through who they're talking to. And this is in no way, shape, or form blaming these girls, blaming their families. This is 100% on what I believe to be a ring.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think so. And that Keegan guy you're talking about, is that the son?
Tony's son.
Tony's son. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, we're getting ready to hear from him. Actually, I did not mean to mute Faye, and I did. Faye, what do you got for me?
I'm just the Indiana has come out and stated that they have made they've discovered the largest pedo ring in history. And these girls, and it was because of these girls, like their case got that investigation going. And when they finally, you know, did the research, all these pedophiles start dropping like flies and getting arrested. And that is just so fantastic.
I feel
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. And you're right, because they got one in Lafayette.
Yes.
This was earlier in the summer. They got him. And I mean, I can't remember how many counts they got him on. And instantly I go Delphi in my mind, and I'm mapping how far it is. It may not have been Lafayette. I'm looking at his picture. I'm comparing it to the sketch. And I'm like, yeah, well, nah, you know.
Yeah, I thought Keegan was, but I think he is involved. He had 8 different phones at the time of the murders. And I guess one of them pinged at Old Country Road. And I totally believe that he left, like, I thought he left his phone on and just there. But yeah.
It's too coincidental. See, I think it was earlier this year. I want to say February for some reason. Doug kind of taunted a little bit. And I think the FBI behavioral analysis has really been behind this because of the key things they have said to keep Richard on his toes and maybe others, because he said we know, he almost made it sound like we know who it is. It was a strange way he said it. It wasn't as in your face as 2019, but like I said, the last month and a half, like the last almost 6 years, anytime I hear Delphi, I'm like, I instantly shit every time. So they start this search over by the Wabash River. Then the murder sheet, they get way too involved again.
Oh, agreed. So agreed. Like, I'm so scared that they're going to come across something again. And I used to believe that it was like purposely done. So like to educate people more about the Keegan Klein connection and like how today's cell phones are, because I think they were scared of having to do that in front of a jury. And so I kind of put it in my mind like it made sense. But now I truly am fearful that they could possibly, take or look for, a document or whatever that has information in the. I'm just so afraid that they'll mess us up. It's just my opinion, but I don't want that to happen at all.
I just don't think that they're going to mess anything up because, for one, they have been so patient. And I can only imagine what they know.
Yeah.
I think they must know a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I stopped because of working on another case. I stopped listening to the murder sheet, but man, those document drops were hard to get through, especially the CSAM.
Oh, I don't mean that. I mean, law enforcement. I mean,
I see.
Oh, no, not murder sheet. They know a lot. They have a lot, and they got shut down. I mean, no, they're back to doing like restaurant murders and stuff. That's fine. But they got so much online backlash, and they got it where it matters. You know what I mean? I don't mean these creator people having a tiff with each other. I don't mean that bullshit. I could care less about that. But they were getting it from people saying, you could have jeopardized this case. You don't do that.
Yeah.
They knew how they came across those documents, and they knew there was a reason they were not for public consumption, if you know what I mean.
Yes, exactly. And Keegan actually, in the interview with Barbara McDonald, there's like a partial confession in it. He actually says the words when she's asked, why do you think they, are on like harassing you? Because he says he feels harassed. And he tells her literally, it's because of my cases here. And then the one in Delphi, my involvement with Delphi. Like, he literally says that openly to her. But
he has said a lot. Here, I'm going to play this clip real quick, kind of refresh our memory about Keegan, because I don't believe for 1 minute at all Keegan did not somehow participate.
I'm being harassed completely.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all. And I gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
In December, Delphi investigators announced that catfish account Anthony Schatz was active on Instagram and Snapchat in 2016 and 2017. And they asked for anyone who interacted with that profile to come forward. But more than a year ago, then 26-year-old Keegan Klein admitted to investigators that he was behind the fake profile and that he used it to ask young girls for nude pictures and videos. Tell me about Anthony Schatz. Why did you create that profile?
I don't really know. I was just lonely, you know what I mean?
Now I'm just asking the chat, okay? Because this is a really insane case, and it is complex. It's very complex. It's hard. I mean, I had forgotten about the guy they found in Colorado that they brought back to Indiana. Anyway, I'm not getting off on that. Anyone think that because Keegan doesn't strike me as too smart. He never has. Did someone help him set up that account, and were they overseeing it? Like perhaps the man sitting in jail.
Help. I think it was boy talk around a campfire or whatever. And they just, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing. The testosterone talk, that's sick. That goes to the sicko.
Mm-hmm.
And, they gravitate towards each other. And they become friends.
Yep. I totally agree with that, Brooks. That's just such a great point. I just there has to be a connection, and especially Keegan, he is not a smart individual, in my opinion. He basically also confesses to everything in that interview of what he's charged. You know, like I couldn't understand why it was taking so long to get him to trial for just the CSAM, you know, like he admits it. He's like, yeah, I did it. I you know, and has no shame, of course, because he's evil.
Thomas said, I say Keegan, it's Kegan. Some people say Kegan. Anyway, Kegan is going to be the star witness to put this guy away. I think there is a group of dudes, his dad being one, that thought this was a good idea. It is so sick. It is so sick he was getting addresses. Remember the story about the girl who was communicating and realized somebody was looking through her windows?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
More than a year ago, then 26-year-old Kegan Klein admitted to investigators that he was behind the fake profile and that he used it to ask young girls for nude pictures and videos. Tell me about Anthony Schatz. Why did you create that profile?
I don't really know. I was just lonely, you know what I mean? Just talking to people. I don't know why I did it really.
And were you ever trying to meet these girls in real life that you were talking to?
No, never.
Just 11 days after the murders of Abby and Libby, task force investigators served a search warrant on the home that Kegan shared with his dad. At the time, the FBI told the Lafayette Journal and Courier they found nothing to indicate a connection to the Delphi case. Kegan's electronics were confiscated then, but he wasn't arrested until 3 years later. He's now facing 30 counts of child pornography and child solicitation in Miami County, Indiana, unrelated to the Delphi murders. He says, though, that Indiana State Police told him Anthony Schatz had been communicating with Libby before her murder. So why do you think investigators are putting so much focus on you right now?
I have not a clue. I think it's because they said I was the last person to talk to her, is what they've told me.
And then she shows up at the bridge and they're abducted and later found dead. And
that'd be a good reason.
Yeah. Duh.
How does he know he was the last person? Like, he can say police told him that, but I mean, how would he know that?
Why
Like,
did he not argue? I got another question for you. Why didn't he say, I haven't talked to them?
Or I'm not allowed to talk about it. I mean, it's not smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is an idiot and a half. And the thing is, his lies over the years haven't even made sense. They've just let this fool just sit in there and talk to whatever reporter he wants to. But I guarantee he knew something was different the day they picked up his fat ass a few weeks ago and said, no, you're not talking to a reporter today. You're going to go see ISP. We got something different going on.
Oh, can you imagine Doug Carter walking in on him and staring him down? Sorry.
No, look at his eyes.
Yeah.
Disgusting. They give me the creeps. They give me the creeps. Ah, dear.
that was not you.
No, 100% not.
Keegan says he has no memory or knowledge of communicating with Libby, and investigators haven't confirmed if what he says is true. Do you think you're going to be charged with anything related to Abby and Libby's murder?
No, I don't.
So the state police haven't threatened that?
No.
No, but somehow they wound up out on the bridge. This wasn't something they were talking about the day before. He is a creep. He is a creep and a half. Somebody, it's all going to come out.
Yeah.
We don't believe you, Keith. We don't believe you. You wouldn't still, I mean, obviously he's sitting there for other reasons.
You know how you were talking about that ski mask incident where that little girl looked out and saw a guy in a ski mask?
Yeah.
And he had gotten her addressed. And the Anthony Schatz profile. You want to hear something insane about him? He knew her as a friend in real life. Like, if that was him, and most likely it was, he just flirted with the idea of the Anthony Shots account so much. But he was this girl's friend. Like, that's crazy sick. It's just sick.
Well, those are the easiest victims, the ones they
Right.
already know a little bit about. You know, they know that if the kid loves dogs or cats or birds or whatever, and that's their in. They know a little bit about them, and then they go for the kill.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry
He also,
about losing that.
he also pretended to be a girl too, and that blew my mind. I was like, that's scary stuff.
And he's
Because it
not
relaxed
and
me
he's
out.
and he's not smart. He's not a smart guy.
Right.
He's not. I don't mean like he just didn't pay attention in school or had the worst science project. He's not a smart guy. Somebody has been directing this show.
Right.
I have always believed that. The first time I heard him speak, I'm like, there's somebody else.
Yeah, I remember thinking that as well. And at the time, I thought it was the father because we
Yes.
didn't know of anybody else.
Right. Didn't ISP come out and say that they thought, it may have been before the 2019, but they thought that 2 people were involved in the murder? I can't remember.
Say that again.
Didn't they? I think ISP early on came out and said that they thought 2 people were involved in the murders, but that may have changed. But I think that was a long time ago. So maybe it's like they kind of felt like it was because at first they called it the Snapchat killings, you know. So it was like the suggestion was there of catfishing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I think that was originally everyone's assumption when we heard about the Anthony Shots.
Right.
And there was a lot of outcry. Why are they not arresting Keegan? They know he was communicating with them. Well, they couldn't. Then they find out all the other stuff. So he's in there for that. But do you want the wrong person going down, even if they are a nasty slime ball? No, you want the right person.
Right guy. Right.
Yeah. We want the right one off the street, away from our children,
Yes.
and let their jailbird friends, I hope he gets put in with the sickest one there.
Yep.
Let them take care of him.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Simon, you're exactly right. The tip line is open to help catch the others. I wouldn't be surprised if Richard, considering his name has never come up, he has been quote unquote happily married for over 2 decades. By all appearances, Richard has the life. The most Richard, the most scrape that Richard's ever had was a DUI in Bloomington. That's really it. He's been going to work at CVS. He's kind of the whistle as you work type of guy.
Right.
He could be the ringleader, and now the rest of them are just all gonna fall. I don't know.
That's right.
I'd like to hear, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. No, you go ahead.
I'd like to hear from his childhood friends. Was he a sicko back then?
Mm.
You know, was he a sicko with animals?
Oh, I didn't even think
You know,
of that.
those are the people that are going to start coming out.
Yeah. He would have to, a person like that would almost have to surround themselves with good to not look out. You know what I mean? To not look like Keegan, the obvious evil looking guy. Like this guy, I'm convinced that he may have committed, if I just don't believe right at this point that this is his first murder. And he would almost have to have a life, go to church and a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they hide in plain sight, just like the sheriff said. And I don't believe this is his first thing. There's no way. I don't think he could have kept it hidden for 30 years of his life,
right.
40 years. I don't think so. Stuff's going to start coming out. Well, I hope the good people out there say something.
Yeah, it's time. And with the awareness around, and I'm not blaming the family at all. And I agree with you, Brooks, that picture on the bridge is absolutely, I got cold chills when I saw that. But I think people nowadays are starting to ask, why did you, like the family members, if they knew, and I don't know if that's a fair question to ask to a victim.
Crap. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to hit that button.
No, you're good.
Say that again.
Doug Carter is taking a stand. We'll take a listen in.
I got all this stuff popping up all at once. I didn't mean to do that. I hit one button. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, I forgot what I was saying. Sorry.
About the family, and
Oh,
did
yes.
they know anything?
Right. I don't know if it's fair to ask that because they're victims too, but it
Yeah.
seems like a lot there because of today's awareness, and how advanced we've become, like with, kind of recognizing evil. Like, I wonder if, I don't know, it's just weird. I don't know if that'd be appropriate to ask or not.
They could have even made jokes about it. The family could have.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It could be, just take a picture. I'm not going to let that happen to you. It could be, you know what I'm saying? You don't know. And also, this guy could very well not be in the CP world. He could have gotten connected that way because he's into something else. This could be something he's been spinning up in his mind for a long time. If the amounts of blood were there, which I'm sure they were because that was part of what Murder Sheet leaked, it was abnormal.
Right. They said it was just an awful, extensive bloody.
Horrific.
Yes.
He could be into something more ritualistic, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
How would he get away? How would he get away with that much blood all over him? Like they said, he must have had it all over him. So, how does he get away?
I think the speculation is now that he was parked in the cemetery, which is a quick exit from, he didn't leave the way he entered. Like, he parked in the cemetery, but walked back around, and then came up on the bridge and then closed the girls. And I think he could have just easily gotten in his car and had at least a new shirt or jacket, wiped off his face, and off he goes. It could have been that simple. But because everyone was asking, why wasn't he seen in the woods afterwards? I just think
that's simple. I can answer.
Yeah.
I can answer that because nobody was paying attention.
Right.
It was an unusually warm day. School was called out, I believe, because they had an extra snow day they hadn't used. Everybody was on about their day. It, like I said, it was an unusually warm day. Nobody was paying attention.
Right. Right.
And
they didn't know they had to, right? You're so right.
And like they said, in plain sight.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder if they took his car, if he still had it, because that would have had blood on the seats or, I don't know. These guys got balls. They especially a day where he knows the schools are closed. Look at how many more people are walking the streets.
Yeah.
He could have been dreaming about this day for a very, very long time. I've always thought, even before Friday, Libby was the target. And when I saw the picture of his daughter, I can't tell you where my mind went because the similarities are very uncanny, especially in what was leaked. There's a big difference between what little bit we know about the way Libby was left and the way Abby was left.
Yes. Yes.
And the police could have even had cameras up in those woods.
Well,
and
there
they
were
could,
deer
because
cameras. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could have even done it after the killing to see if anybody was acting weird on the bridge, and that picture of his daughter could have even started something.
Oh, that's a great point.
They say those weirdos go back to the scene of the crime.
Right.
And somebody getting their daughter to pose. Come on. Holy geez.
And the sketch in the background of his, I think, kitchen or house, just creepy as all get out.
Well, the one I saw, it looked like he was in a bar or something.
Yeah, he was
in
a bar.
Oh, was it a bar?
It looked like it. Yeah, and I thought to myself, who took that picture? Oh, maybe it is a kitchen. Sorry, maybe it is
No,
it's sort of.
they are at some like local bar type thing, and he's smiling. See, that's his wife in the corner. I don't have her blocked out because you just see her forehead. We know what she looks like by now anyway. It's almost like she's taken the way it appears, if you see the whole picture, she's taken a selfie of the two of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't want to pose like that with that picture.
Or maybe he, like I said, and I'm not blaming the victim or her, but maybe he wanted it, you never know.
And I wonder if he grew that beard right after it happened.
Right.
And then stopped wearing hats.
He has like 3 different looks.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I never see him wearing what they call the typical Indiana wear, with the heavy coats and the way that BG was dressed that day. Like any picture or video I see of him, it's never like, it's almost like in a way the lack of that showing him walking in a straight line or in anything that resembled, the coat, anything. Although there is a couple of pictures, but just like not the typical gear that Indianans would wear. Like he wore like sweatpants and stuff like that. It's like, I wonder if he did that, out of fear of being recognized. I don't know.
Oh, I bet, because I haven't seen a picture of him with one of those hats on.
Right? Yeah.
And then I see this one with the long, ugly beards that guys wear. I hate those beards.
Yes.
Well, I think about what Doug said at the New Direction press conference. And he said, imagine what the people around you are going to think when they find out what you did to these 2 little girls. Right. He said, but by now they already noticed that you're acting different and you've been acting different.
Yes.
Yeah. Now they're all going to go back to thinking back to when the girls first went missing and what he was doing and how he was acting. And things will now start to click in. But again, when you trust somebody, you don't see it.
Yeah, it's true.
And another thing that's so bizarre about this case is even the family, no detail has been shared and it's been kept so quiet.
Yes.
You don't know what happened to them. I mean, at this point, I don't think I could bear it. Something was missing and they have never even cataloged what they kept from the crime scene, because if they had said one thing was missing, Kelsey herself would have known because she knows what her sister had on that day. She would have been like, well, the jacket's missing. They've kept everything so quiet. And I think it's for the broader picture they want this net to catch all the nasty fish.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just so like, when Keegan was left 3 years unarrested, I was convinced that it was because he was cooperating with police. But when in reality, police didn't know what they had on the phones until they did a thorough, I think somebody new came in and did this like forensic search. And then that's why he got arrested in 2020. Because when you look on his background check, they actually on the day of the murders charge him with the CSAM, with him holding CP. So they didn't know, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's scary though to think that for 3 years this guy was, most likely still committing, the pedo crimes, like just awful. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to say P word. But yeah.
But they could have been monitoring who he was talking to, and they catch more and more and more people, and it leads to, these things.
I think it's insane that it might be quite possible that that kind of a person is going to be a star witness. Like, I mean, think about like a person who commits crimes against children is actually going to, in a way, save the day, like testify against that.
Well, I hope they would, but I still don't think they're curable. I would never trust one.
Oh no.
Never trust one. They're not curable. I wish there was an island somewhere and they just ship them all to the island and like little rats. Remember that experiment we learned in school. If you put 2 rats in a box, they're friends. You put
Yes.
3 in and all of a sudden they start to get funny. You put 6 in and they eat each other.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
And it's like, good, put them all out and you can,
Let them.
I don't see why they don't let the inmates kill each other. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, well, I guess that would mean I'm for the death penalty, but I am.
No, I get what you're saying. I totally
You know,
agree.
get out of get out. We don't want you
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Now,
So
I
I'm
don't
so mad.
I don't live in Indiana, so and I haven't even looked this up. Now, I mean, I know in Oklahoma, we use the death penalty quite often. They're pretty proud of it.
Good.
Matter of fact, the road going into Big Mac McAllister is called Electric Avenue, even though they don't use the electric chair anymore. Now, I do know Terre Haute, they have the death penalty. That's usually where they do the death penalty because Tim McVeigh, they wouldn't let the state of Oklahoma execute him. He had to go to Terre Haute. So how often, I guess I could just look it up, do they implement the death penalty in Indiana? Is it very often? I know it's on the books.
Yeah, he's eligible for sure. And
Oh,
that's
good.
why I think that his plea, because a lot of serial killers will plead innocent at first, but when they're staring that cold, hard fact of death, they change their plea.
Okay, William said it's a death penalty state,
Yep.
not just that it's on the books or that he's eligible for it. I can figure that out on my own, but that they do implement it. Okay.
Good.
Just me said he looks shocked. Oh yeah, this is his oh shit moment.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he deserves 10 billion more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they better not put him in solitary confinement because to me, that's just the biggest ridiculous thing anybody came up with. It's disgusting.
I heard they shipped him to what they call like a secured facility for his safety. So
Well, maybe until the trial's over,
right.
Just so maybe he could tell names of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really don't care about anything else he would have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Why he did it and all that. It doesn't matter. You're fucking sick. Sorry. We just want to hear other people to get off the street. That's it.
JTB. Okay, so the Terre Haute, that's federal because like Tim McVeigh got executed there. So where do they do it for like their state charges? It doesn't matter because I think that's what he's going to get. I think that's what he's going to get. And it's too good for him. It's too good for him. But I believe this. I truly believe this. Some people think I'm silly. But I believe that after what he goes through in jail and when he probably will be executed by the state of Indiana, he's got hell waiting on him.
Oh, yes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worse than what we could put out. So therefore, yes, execute him and he gets there faster. I like that, Brooks.
Yes.
I like that.
He's going to pay now and eternally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to jump down because, I got to calm down a bit. Let somebody else in chat come on up. You've heard me enough. Anyway, thanks. And it was nice meeting you, Faye.
Oh, it's nice meeting you as well. You take care.
You're
thanks
awesome,
for chat.
Love you to come up, Pat.
Love you, hon. Bye-bye.
She's exactly right.
Yeah. I can jump off if somebody else would like a turn as well.
No, I'm actually going to start winding this down. I think we've had a lot to absorb. I'm sorry that Jennifer Coffindaffer didn't feel like, maybe she needs a refund on her movie ticket. I don't know what we're talking about how they should have, they could have. She doesn't know. And I understand. And I'm the same way. There's a lot of channels where they have former law enforcement. They're retired now. Because they say they can do it doesn't mean that's the case, because every case is different. I know that for a fact because every human being is different. There's a reason they're sealing this. So she should not be putting that out there. JB Buno should have stopped her right there.
Agreed. She was very almost condemning them in a way, like this, kind of an attitude. I mean, she totally had attitude. That's what I saw. Yeah.
It's like, just talk about what we just, this is what, whether you had it in your mind, this is what was going to be or whatever. This is huge. After almost 6 years,
Yes.
we're here, 2 murder charges. It wasn't in connection with, it wasn't we're holding under suspicion or anything like that.
Right.
No.
Yep. Yep. I mean, and truly, I just wanted confirmation of the murders. I know everyone is rightfully so curious, and I get that. And I myself am, but it is so important for those girls. I mean, the families have been put, and the people that blame, there are creators on here that have blamed the actual family. Like, that blows my mind. Like, they believe like Kelsey was involved, and that even Becky Patty was. I mean, to just say such unholy speak about that just blows my mind, just breaks my heart for that family.
That's why I thought this morning, I thought, please tell me that the people that have been after Mike and Becky, and especially Kelsey, take the day off. It's Halloween. Don't you have something else to do?
So true.
Take the day off. Let's just take the day off.
Take the idiot day off. Because I'm sorry, but that's what I call them. Just complete idiots that stooped so low.
You deserve it.
So
you
awful.
deserve it. You worked really hard. Take today off, please.
Look at that one.
God. Well, I had to reschedule the members live. So for all you guys in here that are going to be in the members live, go to the community tab where I told you this morning I had to reschedule it because they moved this up an hour. Tell me when you want to do the members live, because like I said, it is for Halloween and it is for all of you. So let me know what a good time is. It won't take me 2 seconds to reschedule my busy day. I took today off.
Wow, you did? Oh, you mean for your stream? I get you. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
No, actually,
you're having me up.
Hey, anytime. I love talking to you. And I'll see you guys over in Discord. But I'm going to start shutting this down. I'm going to look at one clip of like where we are right now, and then a few pictures to kind of refresh us from what we had to take in today. Because just me hearing 2 counts of murder on this sicko, that was enough to spin me up. Seeing Doug breaking down when he said, "I have peace," when I heard the sheriff, who the sheriff was accused too.
Yes, Toby. Yes, he was.
The sheriff was accused. The sheriff was accused. It could have been the stupidity of wanting to bring cadaver dogs in from Missouri instead of finding some locally. There was a lot. This law enforcement did not have it easy.
Not at all. Agreed. Sorry, Tobe. I called him Toby, but yes, they've been highly criticized, and that's why when the arrest went down silently, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is awful. I don't even really. And the thing is, eventually,
we will not discuss.
Eventually, what is that? Oh, that's 20 minutes. I don't want that one. Eventually, we're going to hear it all.
Right.
We're going to hear it all. And I believe Doug. I believe Doug Carter when he said, some things are too much for the human mind to wrap around.
Right. Like, we're going to wish we didn't know when we do know. Yeah.
And that's coming. That day's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said, today's not the day for that, there's going to be, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more. Today's the day to hear this part. And then today's the day to hear that part.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What I was going to play, we already heard, so we don't have to do that. So I'm going to send everybody on their way. Okay. And when you guys are ready for the members live, you tell me, I'll throw it up there. I've already got it together, and we will have more chat and conversation. So anyway, you guys are the best. I know how other chats do when things like this come out. And hands down. I say it every day. I mean it every day. You guys are the best. Faye, don't be a stranger. Come back up when you see
Thank
the
you
link or
so
whatever,
much.
and come
Yeah.
up and chat with us, okay?
Oh, it's been a pleasure. As always. You take care.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.